Okay, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our practice this evening or this afternoon or morning, depending on where you might be in the world currently. Um, I'm Lama Rod. I use he, him pronouns. Welcome to those who are new for the first time. This is a guided practice around the tradition of Medicine Buddha, which is a deity practice um, coming from the Tantric Buddhist um, path or tradition. So welcome, and we'll get started um, in about 15 or 20 minutes. As usual, feel free to offer or post any prayer requests that we can offer during our practice today. Questions, there will be time for questions. So if you look at the Ask a Question um, kind of section or chat box at the bottom of your screen, you can post questions there. Try not to post questions in the chat um, if possible, but put those questions so they can stay organized and I can see them as well. Okay? All right. So if you would like, also introduce yourself to the room, where you're coming from, so forth. I would love to see if there's anyone new joining for the first time. I'm just curious as to who you are. Um, so tonight or today, um, I forget what we talked about last week. Last week it was a short session, but it was a nice session too. I may have to do that again. We talked about it was Dr. King's birthday, and we talked about great beings and so forth. Um, Maybe I'll continue a little bit with that as we um, get ready to start. And also, I'm going to continue talking about the, I guess um, I guess what a transmission is. I guess transmissions. Um, One of the things, this is actually not anything related to anything I've just said, but I've just really been interested. I've been interested for a while in kind of like using movies, to talk about Dharma, to talk about practice. And I know what you're thinking. This is just a really sly way that I'm going to start talking about the Matrix. And it may be a sly way that I'm going to introduce the Matrix, but hear me out. Hear me out here. There's so much Dharma, wisdom in movies that are related to our practice. And like, when I'm watching TV, like I'm always watching with a dharmic lens. I'm always saying, okay, how does this show, this movie, whatever it is, how does this actually help me to, I don't know, to experience freedom, to be liberated? What does it teach me about myself? What does it teach me about the world? I think that's when we begin to transform like our like binging habits around media, into something that's actually conducive towards liberation, i.e., the Matrix. But it's not just the Matrix, but a lot of different movies, especially horror movies. And I just think there's so much in horror movies that can be talked about. I've been really wanting to do um, for years now. I've been wanting to do like I don't know, a series or talk or something using movies and music um, as like ways to talk about Dharma, right? I don't know how I would do that, um, but I just think it would be so like interesting and creative to do that. Um, so anyhow, now getting back to the main point for tonight. Um, yeah, the Dharma of the Princess Bride. Um, if I don't talk about the matrix, is it even medicine Buddha practice? Listen, I talk about matrix in anything that I'm doing. Actually, I just, you know, it's a very skillful movie. That's all I have to say. Is it touches a lot of different things relevant to what we're doing. Um, so I'm just putting that out there because I wanna, I wanna make that happen somehow. Like I don't know what it would be. Would it be like a public viewing? Would it be? I don't know. What would it be? Like watching it together. Like you can just like share. I can just do it like share screen, and we can just like watch the movie from our screens, from my screen, and I could just stop it every like whenever and just like give a little talk because that would be like all day. Like that would be an hour and a half movie would take like all day for me to get through if that were the case. Um, anyway, I'm just putting it out there, but it's been on my mind today. Um, it's actually been it's been a huge part of my practice. But anyhow, um, let's see what else. So getting back to the real topic today. Yeah, transmissions. So, so I want to talk about Thich Nhat Hanh, right? Um, and even like Ram Dass also passed away a couple of years ago. And there's been some other teachers too who haven't really been as well known, who've passed. And I've been really thinking about the passing of, realized enlightened teachers, right? And I, have some experience with that in terms of my teachers. Um, and I know people, have been really, upset, right? And we've been talking about this actually, for a couple of weeks, like as so many people are passing, bell hooks, Melodoma Somé, um, and Joan Didion, like so many people, Stephen Sondheim, um, for those of us, but also, just, great writers, great performers. Of course, Andre Leon Talley, who was, I would consider one of my teachers as well. Desmond Tutu as well. Um, I know when these folks pass on, like we feel the grief, and we feel also a lot of fear, a part of that grief, because we feel like we've relied on these people for our well-being, right? For to help us, to teach us, to inspire us. And when teachers die, when teachers have passed, I have definitely felt the grief. I have definitely felt the grief this past weekend, but I don't feel scared. Like I don't feel afraid. I don't feel like the world has lost anything. I mean, these great beings, their bodies, and we talked about this last week with Dr. King, their bodies, I think, were the least of them. Like that's the lesser expression of who they are. I think these great beings have emerged from the physical body and returned back to a more awakened state, back into pure consciousness, right? Um, and in that form, I think they are so much more able to be of help right now, because the shift that we're experiencing is something that's happening on multiple levels right now, and we're actually surviving this shift. Like this isn't um, like this is a hard transition. Like apocalypse is just a hard transition, right? And it's not uncommon when like a world system goes through this to for the world system just kind of collapse, right? Um, but we're actually navigating this. Now, we may not feel like we're navigating it well, but we are navigating this, right? And we're navigating it, you know, well, I was just say this: we're getting a lot of help in this navigation from a lot of very powerful beings that we may not necessarily see. A lot of these beings are unseen, you know, um, but there's a tremendous holding right now of this world by helpful, benevolent, compassionate beings, right? So we're not going through this alone, right? And I think there are beings who have, you know, taken form in the um, have taken form in the physical body, who are now allowing themselves to return back, right, to their energetic bodies, right, to pure consciousness, in order to really help us in a different way, you know, in a way that perhaps they have more agency. It's hard, you know, it's hard to be of help within the human and within in the physical form. Um, and so these great beings like Thich Nhat Hanh, for instance, right? I don't feel Thich Nhat Hanh's absence. I feel actually a strengthening of his consciousness, actually, um, and that's for me, like that's understandable. That's like natural, like for us to have a deeper, stronger connection to a realized being who is has returned back to energy and consciousness, right? And that makes it easier actually for us to connect to those beings. So we know, for instance, we talk about Tibetan Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, which is where I come out of. We talk about we have this practice called Guru Yoga, right? Guru Yoga is about connecting to the enlightened consciousness of realized beings. But what it really is doing is helping us to connect to our own awakened nature, right? By setting up this this situation where we think that we're leaning into the consciousness of another great realized being, but instead that consciousness is simply reflecting us back to ourselves, right? So we actually begin to take refuge in our own awakened nature. That's pretty much Guru Yoga in a nutshell. It took me 20 years to figure out how to say that, right? Um, and so these great beings, these great realized masters, um, are still extremely accessible for us in our practice if we can just reach out, if we can turn our attention, turn our awareness to those beings. Um, there's much more happening than what you realize. There's a lot more happening. Um, I don't feel like I feel very confident. I'm very optimistic because I have a different perspective about what's happening, right? Um, they're just there's just incredible amounts of light, experiences of light beginning to flood into the world. Yes, there's also incredible amounts of darkness as well, but the darkness won't win um, in this world system, in this world. Um, that's a guarantee. It's not going to win, right? Um, because there's so much goodness and virtue in this world. Um, that maybe we don't see, we don't touch, but it's there, you know. And sometimes the ugliness, the violence, the harm, the hatred, all of that is just amplified in such a way that like that's all we see and experience. But that's not the reality. The reality is that there is a lot of light, compassion, love, equanimity that balances that darkness, what we perceive as dark. Um, but we all have to make individual choices to choose light, to choose the light. So what does that mean to choose the light? I mean, it's someone mentioned Star Wars. Now I don't want to get started on Star Wars actually, um, but I'll just say this: like I love Star Wars because it's just this basic archetypal story of the battle, and the struggle between light and dark, right? And the newer movies talk about really like the complexity of that. There's not always about just being on the side of light. It's not about just always being just completely consumed by the darkness. Sometimes there's a middle, right? That's complicated. Um, but what I, really appreciate about the Star Wars movies is that it just makes it clear that there's a choice that you have to make. Like you have to choose, which side of this you're going to stand on. A lot of us haven't really chosen where we should be, or where we are called to be, like we have to, like if we're about goodness and compassion and love and just trying to help and change things, we have to like consciously, literally choose to be on the side of light. Not just assume, like, but we have to make a conscious choice. Like just saying, you know what, I'm choosing to be on this side. I'm choosing to be of help. I'm not choosing to add to the confusion, the chaos of the world. I'm choosing to metabolize it, to change it, to disrupt all of that so we get to clarity, and truth, compassion, love, like all the good things that we like to practice around. And going back to these masters like Thich Nhat Hanh, for me, remembering that their consciousness is always present, like awakened consciousness is always present. That's what Guru Yoga teaches us. Is that this energy, this awakened state is always accessible, and we just have to choose that. Again, we just have to choose, you know, you know, to choose. I see someone experiencing a disconnection from the earth for a few days. Then you ask the earth to grab you. Like you ask the earth to reach up and to hold you down, and again, like we have to ask for what we need. Literally, this is a literal thing. When I feel disconnected from the earth, I ask the earth to hold me, right? I touch the earth, right? And I look down at the earth and I say, Earth, please hold me. Please help me come back to the earth. You know, that's a prayer. Like prayers shape reality around us. Prayers move energy around. Um, but we have to ask for what we need, right? Um, to open our minds and to touch into the consciousness of great beings, right? To channel the qualities of beings that we love, right, into our practice, you know. So I loved, Leon Andre Talley, right? Because Andre Leon Talley. I loved Andre Leon Talley for a lot of different reasons. One, because um, he reflected my life. Like it was, I saw someone a lot like me with very similar upraising. Growing up in the South in the church and everything. Someone who, like me, was really unhappy with everything that I got growing up, right? Everything, like the poverty, right? The violence, this belief that I didn't deserve nice things, that I wasn't beautiful, right? Like the ways that I struggled to believe that I deserved something better than, just, just being poor and erased and forgotten, just all of that. And so what he showed me was that I deserved, um, I had a right to beauty, essentially, right? And that's been the strongest spiritual teaching for me in my life, that I have a right to beauty. I have a right to embrace elegance. I have a right to want more. I have a right to be seen, right? I have a right to choose to go into a field of work that maybe I don't see people like me, but I still feel as if I belong, right? You know, and that fierceness, that audacity, that's what many of us, when we have these great people who are leaving, that's what we mourn. It's like we mourn the people who have shown us, who've taught us to want more and to do more and to want better, right? And these are some of the qualities that we don't have to lose, but we can continue to touch into them, you know. So when I sit and think about Andre Leon Talley, like I am like filled with this energy, this experience of just like audacity and courage, and compassion and clarity and intelligence. And that will never be lost to me, right? And that's part of Guru Yoga too, is that like I take on the qualities of the being that I'm leaning into. We do it for Take Down Han, we can do it for Bell Hooks, for Desmond Tutu, for Meatloaf. Right? Take Down Han passed, and of course Meatloaf's death was completely covered up. But Meatloaf, I love Meatloaf as well. Um, Bell Hooks, like Joan Didion, like I mean, so many people, right? So we'll begin the practice with this reflection. Maybe some of you have already been doing this reflection. Um, you think about some of these great people who are dying, Sidney Poitier as well. I mean, you think about who's leaving and why do we mourn them? What are the qualities that they possessed, right? Like what inspired us about them? Betty White. Hmm. Hmm. You can channel me as well. You may just be disappointed. Um, But thinking about these great things, what was it about them? Like, what was it about Betty White that you loved, right? And then thinking about that quality, are those range of qualities? They were funny, they were sassy, they were smart, they were enlightened, they were talented. They made me feel beautiful. They made me feel as if I deserved, you know, to have certain things, whatever it may be. Thinking about that. And so, for those of you who used to join me from my natural Dharma days, um, when I used to teach in Harvard Square in Cambridge a while ago now, um, you may remember my infamous Beyonce talk. Actually, I have several infamous Beyonce talks, but the Beyonce talks where I would tell the gays in the group. This is like just a teaching for the gays, the Beyonce teaching. But I would be like, if Beyonce is someone you experience love from, then Beyonce becomes your benefactor, right? And you can open your mind to receive that kind of blessing. Because quite honestly, we're not quite sure who Beyonce is. I don't think she is extraordinary. She's not ordinary, as the Tibetans would say. She's not ordinary, right? So what is it, And do you imagine that that quality of this person, who's actually can be living or passed on, that that quality begins to fill you up? Again, always starting in the heart center is where we want to start with this. For some people, Thich Nhat Hanh's kindness, his gentleness, I never had a chance to meet Thich Nhat Hanh, but I have several friends who study very closely with him, and the gentleness. What does it feel like to be filled with the gentleness of Thich Nhat Hanh? The fierceness of Andre Leon Talley, the humor and kindness of Betty White, the vision of Desmond Tutu, the truth and honesty of Joan Didion, right? The fierce wisdom of Bell Hooks, right? Or the magic and vision of Melodona Somé. And in this moment, can you take refuge in that energy and those qualities? In the same way, when we begin to practice medicine Buddha, it's the same thing. It's actually when we are practicing like this, opening our hearts and our minds to these transformative, liberating qualities, we are actually touching into the essence of medicine Buddha. Because this is healing. Right? And when we do that, the door opens. Right? When I think about Andre Leon Talley, I actually think about Andre Leon Talley more than Thich Nhat Hanh right now. But when you think about Andre Leon Talley, when I think about Andre Leon Talley, there's a like this fierceness, this audacity, there's a beauty. Like I feel, I don't know, the energy of beauty beginning to fill me up, and then I get to lean into that energy, and something opens, and that opening is the doorway to the deity, to medicine Buddha, maybe in this case. If you're thinking about Beyonce, I would say that's the doorway to Tara or Kali. But this is it. I know some of you are thinking, "Ah, this is like stupid. I didn't come here for this." But yeah, you did. You did come here. You come here. You did come here for this because this is it. This isn't some mystical, ambiguous, esoteric thing that we're going to be confused about, like I was for many years in practice. This is it. This is the practice, right? The deity isn't over here somewhere. Like the deity is here. Like the deity is always here. Medicine Buddha is always here. And we use the relative world skillfully to open that door to the experience of the deity. And what is the experience of the deity? It's just space, it's spaciousness, it's openness, boundlessness, warmth, clarity. Those are just ways that we talk about being loved. You're experiencing love. And when you experience love, you're experiencing the deity in this tradition. Let this energy bring you back to the earth if you're still struggling to be with the earth. And so when we think about these beings, these people, in this way, we're connecting to their most essential nature, their Buddha nature, their awakened nature. That's how you get there. That's the connection, right? And that's and what you're doing also is channeling. This is what channeling is. Is this opening into a stream of something, to a stream of awareness, of consciousness, to a stream of energy, right? And letting that and just stepping into that stream. That's channeling. So we're gonna go just a little further, just like moving further here. We're gonna introduce the first mantra that we practice, the calling medicine Buddha. Kino, of course the mantra went right out of my mind, right out of my mind. Om Min La Sangye Kino Soha. Om Min La Sangye Kino. Of course, Sangye, Min La Sangye means medicine Buddha. Min La is medicine, Sangye is actually means purified. Sangye means purified one. So the purified medicine person, which we just say medicine Buddha. Then Kino is to know, to think of. So when we call out to medicine Buddha, say, medicine Buddha, please think of me, please look at me, please know me. And we can chant it directly into this experience. Because we're doing it, this is a yoga that we're doing. This is unification. This is yoking, right? Things together. The physical world with the unseen world. We're tying them, we're binding them, and practice consciously, right? But when we call medicine Buddha through this mantra, and we are calling into this experience of qualities, the energetic qualities of this person that we're working with, when we call into this energy, we're actually calling into the deity. Because within the tantric world, everything is the deity. Because everything arises out of this space and emptiness and luminosity or energy. Everything is just space, emptiness, and energy. The deity, Betty White, Anjali Antali, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Dalai Lama, you, me, the Matrix, everything. So when we experience that essence, the space, the emptiness, the energy, that basic primordial experience, then we're touching into the nature of everything, everything at once. And the mantra just pulls us deeper into that experience because the mantra is an expression of this essence of everything. And we're going to practice that later on as well to begin to experience the mantra as the heartbeat of all phenomenal reality. Have a easy practice for us to get into that. So turning our attention to the mantra, we're going to chant the mantra a couple of times. As we chant Om Min La Sangye Kino Soha, I wonder if you can just kind of let go and let the mantra gently guide you deeper into this experience, this energy. Moving deeper into the nature of things, moving deeper into the heart of the deity of medicine Buddha. So we'll begin. Om Min La Sangye Kino Soha. Om Min La Sangye Kino Soha. Om Min La Sangye Kino Soha. And whatever experiences of grief, right, that you're tapping into, just allow that grief to simply be there, to let it have its space, to allow it to be held by this experience, the reality of emptiness, space, energy. The grief also is an expression of the same space emptiness. Everything. So, as usual, as we touch into this energy, we want to start playing with it just a little bit, right? So we can begin to imagine that this energy that we're working with becomes something that's, becomes like a light filling our bodies. And this light just begins to radiate from our bodies. It's almost like we're glowing. And for those of you who are struggling with physical pain, also physical, also mental, emotional, again, like imagine channeling this energy that we're awakening into that experience of pain, into the part of our bodies that's struggling, into the parts of our minds, right, that needs this energy. Just letting that energy naturally flow. And for those of us who are working with the breath tonight, just in the same way we practiced at the beginning of the year, using our breath to move energy, right? So imagining just like inhaling deeply, and as we exhale, imagining that exhale is carrying this energy of healing, and we can direct that exhale into parts of our experience, our body and minds, that could use the energy of healing. And in the first round of our mantra, we'll just do, this first part of the practice, just glowing and moving energy into different parts of our bodies and minds that need the healing. Staying connected to this quality that we're channeling from a being, you know, when we've lost and grieved for, knowing that that energy is just the expression of the deity of Medicine Buddha. And of course, if all of this is too busy, just resting, right? Just resting within this energy, resting within the experience. And when we rest, we trust that the healing that we need will start to happen, right? So we'll move into our main mantra, Teata Baconze, Maha Baconze, Rasa Sumangate Soha, which is simply a prayer to Medicine Buddha for healing. That's all it is, right? Teata Baconze, Ma Baconze, Rasa Sumangate Soha. Teata beyenze ma beyenze raza sumo ngate soa. Teata beyenze gati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungati soa. Te ata begenze, So I'd like to offer the prayers as we move into the second part of our mantra practice. And as always, we call upon all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yagams, saints, benevolent beings, angels, all benevolent deities, protectors of the lands, of the elements. We pray to the ancestors. We pray to our descendants as well. We pray to all benevolent, helpful energies of this world system of the universe to hear our prayers and to act accordingly to benefit those whom we are offering prayers for. We also lift up all the prayers that are unspoken, those prayers that remain in our hearts, that remain in our bodies. We offer all the prayers for not just for the wellness and the liberation of all beings, but we offer prayers for all of the phenomenal world to be freed. Everything must be free. So we offer up prayers to my ancestors for healing any rifts, offer prayers of forgiveness to myself and those who have hurt me, particularly masculine people. Offering prayers for the healing of my arthritic knee. Offering prayers for Danny, who has surgery this week, that she recovers well, that she is supported through fear. Offering prayers for me, for Lama Rod, may I be healed and held in compassion and love always. Offering prayers for my head, that it's healing, as we were injured last night, and pray that it didn't cause further brain damage, and prayers for the young, angry woman who rammed into me as well, and prayers for healing of all of that. And offering prayers for me. I've been experiencing disconnection from the earth the last few days and still can't quite touch down yet. Offering prayers for my fractured left shoulder. Offering prayers for Jason, Allie, Michaela, and Scott. Of course, we're offering prayers for all those who've passed as well. Prayers for Charles Canty, who just passed away in our family. Offering prayers for people with cancer or long-term disabling illnesses. For Eve Isen, Patricia Dalich, Hava Bailey, for Joe Ward's continued recovery from near death. Prayers for Lindsay and Rich, who are struggling with the effects of substance abuse. Of course, many prayer requests for people recently transitioned into the Bardo, Sofas and Inga Simonson, a wonderful older couple who both took their own lives. Also for Connie White and Vernon White, for Susan Needham and Richard Walker. Prayers for all those stuck within the grasp of addiction. Prayers for Micah Klein, who entered the Bardo last month due to unexpected heart attack, and to her father Henry Klein, and stepmother Lynn, and all her family who are grieving. Prayers for Thich Nhat Hanh's transition and continuation. Offering prayers to the family of Lily Berube, who lost her battle to substance use disorder on Saturday. Offering prayers to heal from colonization. I continue to offer prayers for my uncle still recovering from heart surgery. Offering prayers for Mike for his continued healing. Offering prayers for Elena's father who transitioned into the Bardo recently. I'm offering prayers for my friend Allah Mathematics Allah as he continues his transition in the Bardo. Continue to offer prayers for all of those who are experiencing loneliness, isolation during this time of pandemic. Offering prayers for the end of the pandemic and all diseases that create harm and suffering. Offering prayers for all of us to be liberated from systems of violence and abuse and power. May we all get free as quickly as possible. May we all realize our innate Buddha nature. So as we continue with the mantra, we want to imagine that this energy, right, the energy of medicine Buddha, or the energy of the qualities that we're channeling, that we begin to radiate that energy out to the experiences of those we've offered prayers for those who we're praying for, maybe offering that energy back to ourselves for our own healing, offering that energy, just into the situations of those who need it the most right now. We can imagine that we're like stars radiating into the darkness of the night sky, illuminating the way home, maybe, for people who are trying to get back home. All right? So we begin again with the mantra. O te atang bekenze ma bekenze ratasumo rate soha. 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 veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater veganze, veganze, ma veganze, lass uns mal so. Theater Veganze, Mahaveganze, Raza Sunga Tesua, Deata Veganze, Veganze, Mahaveganze, Raza Sunga Tesua, Deata Veganze, Veganze, Mahaveganze, Rasa sumunga tesu. So as we begin to transition out of the practice, just invite you to first just shift your attention to the weight of your body, making contact with the seat under you. And just noticing the seat, noticing the weight of your body. Allow yourself to be held by the seat. Allowing the sensation to invite us back into this time and space and place. And as we begin to turn our attention to our closing prayer for tonight, I pray that this energy of healing, this connection to our beloveds continues, blessing and healing us for as long as possible. May all the great ones that we've lost from the world of the living continue to radiate their awakened awareness into this world. And turning our attention to Shantideva's prayer in the chat box, we're going to recite this 3 times to dedicate the merit of our practice. May I be a protector to those without protection, and a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the furthest shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. And may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach to the ends of space. All right, thank you so much, everyone, um, for your practice. I see there's just one last question here in the chat box here. Um, so let's see. My experience of connecting to disembodied beings has mostly felt quite vague. I feel it feel it more. It is more distinct. I feel it is indistinct. It is indistinct, like a distant radio signal I'm picking up. Do you experience the presence of disembodied beings, ancestors is very distinct sometimes? Could you speak to this? Right. I think that's pretty natural in terms of how you're experiencing unseen beings, like a distant radio signal. It can feel like that. Not everyone has the capacity or the intuition um, for like a very direct kind of visceral or felt or like visual or sensory experience. Like, not everyone can see everything. Not everyone hears things. Not everyone gets visions, right? There are different well, not level. I would say a spectrum. There's a spectrum of the ways in which these kind of intuitive abilities manifest for people. Um, so sometimes, no matter how hard we train, right, it's difficult, you know, to get a stronger experience than what we're getting. Sometimes for some people, right, they can actually train to deepen those abilities. Um, I experience disembodied beings or unseen beings in a variety of ways. I don't necessarily, my ability isn't necessarily to see things clearly. Like I have friends, for instance, who just see, dead people very clearly. Like they see it, they're like living. That's how strong their vision is. And I don't have that typically kind of, at least I don't think I do. Who's to say? But but my experience is that I can just, I feel energy really strongly. I can feel presence really strongly. I can translate energy very, very strongly as well. Um, so I can like intuit messages, pretty well. Um, but there are just, the unseen world is always trying to get our attention in some way. So another thing that we train in is reading the signs. Like there's signs, right? And for those of you who study like sacred numerology, right? Which I'm not a student of sacred numerology, but for people who are, they can just like read numbers everywhere. It's like they just pick up numbers, and numbers communicate things to them. You know, so there's one way that the phenomenal world is speaking to us. But yeah, I mean, the deeper we go into our meditation, the more these signals, these energies become more distinct. If we go into plant medicine, allyship, right, then, those signals become stronger. Those experiences become stronger. Um, when I'm in ceremony with plant medicine, then, I mean, it's just like, just full on. Like I can just sit and have conversations and, you know, visions, everything. So, anywho, I hope that was helpful for everyone. Please stay connected to us. There's lots of things going on in Bhumi Sparsha, and I have another Love and Rage course starting up later this month, beginning of next month. So just reach out if you need financial support or help. Just let my team know. You don't have to let me know. You know, just follow the emails, and um, you'll be connected to someone who can assist you. Okay. I don't think there's nothing else. I'm still thinking about these lectures that I want to do about medicine Buddha. So every time I think I figured it out, something else comes along that makes me think about another way of presenting them. So we're working on it. Uh-huh. So thank you, everyone. Please just continue to practice. Just continue to, do this practice. When you hear about someone who's passed, do this practice, right? Connect to their qualities that we admired, right, and we're inspired by. That connects us to the essence of who they are, which is the essence of the deity. Okay, all right. That is it for me. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you next Monday. Okay, thank you.